What's going on, guys? Welcome to the live stream session. It's your boy Phrankleen. If you're watching this, if you're new to the channel, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to hit the like button, and don't forget to give consideration to the subscribe button if you like what I'm about. There are many more contents to enjoy on the channel, all right? And if you've subscribed or you're considering to, if you do, make sure you hit that bell button so you select the all option. Basically, you get notified when I'm online and stuff like that, all right? So, yeah, sorry to keep you waiting. Apologies. So yeah, I had to walk all the way to Ethiopia to get the coffee beans, and then I had to drag the bag of coffee beans back. Went through immigration and double checks, and then the kettle wasn't working. I had to go back up the mountain to get some hot water. Yeah, I'm joking, but I'm here anyway. Just technical issues. I do apologize. Yeah, what's going on, great people? What's up, man? I'm a T. So you can see me, you can hear me. Smash the like button, all right? Now, before we crack on, with today's, what's up, Sam? What's going on? Great, wonderful, wonderful people. Before we crack on with today's topic, I am going to do two things. I'm going to say big thank you to, the brother that sent me this article. I mean, some of these things I have known myself, but it's nice to have data. So I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment. I'm going to read through that article. It's very important, particularly for those of us that live in the diaspora. Okay, sometimes amongst ourselves as Black folks, when you're talking to some of our people, due to ignorance or maybe lack of evidence, on the spot evidence, or somewhere something they can double check, they might think you're making it up. Some of them, they decided to be gatekeepers, here in the West, and then they argue blindly, which is a major disservice to ourselves as a collective unit. This session will probably be one of my favorite sessions. It's nothing complex. It's an article that a gentleman by the name Coyote. Coyote, if you watch this, or if you're watching this, if you watch this later, thank you, brother. I appreciate you for sending me the link. If you want to check the article out later, look in the description below. But before then, the session is actually this particular topic talked about owning properties and all that stuff and the disparities and stuff for Black folks here in the UK. So it kind of ties into this session is sponsored by Adron Homes. Okay, I've been talking about this for a while. Adron Homes, I've got partnership with them. It's basically you can, for as little as 25,000 naira, you can own a parcel of land in Nigeria, or multiple parcels of land. In the past few weeks, several brothers and sisters that watch my channel, they've jumped on the wonderful opportunity. So I'm just going to talk about this very briefly so we can crack on with today's House of Coffee. I see you, man. We can crack on with today's topic, all right? So they basically got a Ramadan offer going on, okay? They've got lands across Nigeria. I hope you can see my screen there. So in Ede, Abuja, Ijebu-Ode, Ibadan, Badagry, Suleja, Atlanta, in Abeokuta, and Kajola, Shagamu, Nasarawa, Oshogbo, Ibejuleki, Ikorodu, Shimawa, and the list goes on, all right? It's a reputable organization. Before I got to the point of aligning with them, because the last thing you want is, oh, it was Phrankleen that said X, Y, Z. It was Phrankleen. But trust me, okay, my confidence with this company is as solid as a rock, okay? No gimmicks, no silly games, no taking up people's money and running up the hills or disappearing and all that nonsense. So for as little as 25,000 naira, you can own a parcel of land, for a period of 24 months to pay off, or 12 months. So for example, if you look on the screen, Buckingham Park and Gardens in Ede, the actual price is ₦1,000,000. Some people might have enough bread to buy outrightly. If you go for the 20% discount, you go for 800,000, which you can pay within 2 years instrumentally on a monthly basis. If you go for the 30% discount, 700,000 naira. If you go for the highest, which is a 40% discount, it goes for 600,000 naira. You can own a parcel of land. Think about your future and particularly the future of your children. These actually ties into today's topic. So there you go. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time. If you're interested, just send me an email, right, to Food Channel 1960. All right. Let me put my email on the screen and say, Phrankleen, please send me the application pack. All right. Oh, that's all you gotta do, man. Just that's my email address on the screen. Phrankleen, can you please send me the application pack for Adron Homes? I would like to own a parcel of land or jump on it. It's fantastic. The problem with us within the Black community, one of the predominant problems that we have, lack of understanding of finance, investment. Some of us in small, tiny packs, individuals here and there, we are doing well. We are unlearning the toxicity that revolves around not having the proper amount of knowledge regarding finance. Some of us in this recent years and times we're doing well, but if you look at the overall picture, we're not doing well as a unit of people. So it's nice rather than have your money sit in the bank where the bank doesn't really give a toss about you. Invest in assets. What if you don't wake up tomorrow morning? What if you end up on the train track next year? I'm not wishing death on you, but we've got to be realistic. Some people are going to drop off in their 30s. Some people will drop off in their 40s. Some will drop off in their 50s. Some in their 60s. Some will make it to their 70s. And if you look at it this way, all right, without just being unnecessarily afraid of death and burying our heads in the sand, should you drop off tomorrow, if you've got a couple of kids, what becomes of their future? Have you asked yourself that question? And even if you haven't got kids, how about the next 5 years for yourself, your finance? What about your retirement? Do you see what I'm saying? A very clever decision today can make a huge difference for our future tomorrow. So foodchannel1960@gmail.com. You can also look in the description below. You find my contact details. Right, enough of me now. So I am going to share my screen once again, and then we can crack on with this article. If you can hear me, just give me a thumb up, please. Let me see if you can hear me, first of all. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, let me know. Is that Wirish? Is that you? Can you hear me? Great stuff. All right. Okay. So I am going to share my screen now. Thank you. Thank you. So that I can pull up. I can pull up that. Just give me a second, man. Chrome tab. Ha! Here we are. So this is an article from Bloomberg, right? So it actually says how London's property boom left Black Britons with, let me see if I can have a full screen. I don't know if this allows me to do a full screen. Let me see if these allows me to do a full screen. Give me a second. Full screen. Right, that's better. So stay with me. I'm going to take you through this article. It's very important that you pay attention. All right? Because we're going to discuss this. Please help me share this video. So it talks about buying a place to live in the single most important. I'm not going to go through every line. I'll read the important parts and then we can carry on talking. Achieving prosperity, in the UK is so central to life that scrutinizing the property market is a national pastime. Yet black people risk falling further behind for generations as urban gentrification exposes, gaping racial wealth disparities. Now, the median accumulation of wealth through home ownership by a black family over the past decade in Great Britain is zero. Did you hear that? The median accumulation of wealth through home ownership by a black family over the past decade in Great Britain is zero. Zilch. Data compiled exclusively for Bloomberg by the Office of National Statistics shows. In contrast, a white British family has amassed about a net of, say, £115,000, which amounts to $163,000, by holding property and land over the same period. Here are other reasons for the disparity. Chief among them, only about 30% of black families are homeowners. The figure shows the difficulty, the face, not just in accumulating wealth, but also gaining enough to pass on to their children. Did you hear that? The figure shows the difficulty they face not just in accumulating the said wealth, but also gaining enough to pass on to their children. So if you, as an adult, have not been able to accumulate wealth or do well for yourself, how do you then pass on, a generational wealth to the children? How do your children have the ability to pass on to their children? Do you see what I'm saying? So basically, thus goes the cycle of poverty. This is just absolutely devastating. Now, this person made a comment that's irrelevant. Let me just carry on here. Nowhere is the divide starker than in London, where almost 60% of black people in England and Wales reside, and living costs eat up the potential for any savings. Of course, London is bloody expensive. The UK capital is one of the most expensive cities in the world, where no one can get on the housing ladder unless your parents were lucky enough to own their own homes. All right. Let me scroll up. An extreme example of gentrification is the district of Notting Hill, synonymous with slums and race riots in the post-war period before turning into one of the most highly coveted parts of the British capital. The neighborhood has changed almost beyond recognition from when the Caribbean diaspora shared stories over home-cooked meals at the Mangrove restaurants during British racial tensions of the 1970s and 80s. Before shutting down almost 3 decades ago, it was raided at least a dozen times by the police, blah, 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 subject to the movie and all that. Now, just let me go past all of that. Now, look at these diagrams. This is one of my favorite parts. Look at this. Let me see if I can sort of like zoom this a little bit so it gets a little bigger. Let me see. Now, the median value of a black family's property wealth is £0. I hope you're with me. Indian family, the UK median household net property wealth. Let me see if I can make that thing a little bigger. Just give me 1 second. Aha. I think that's better so that you can see it properly. It's shocking, isn't it? The median value of a black family's property wealth is £0. UK median household net property wealth, Indian family, £176,000 at the top, followed by the white British, 115,000, Pakistani families, 115K. Other Asian backgrounds, 50K, Chinese, 40K, other whites, 37, mixed multiple, 30K, Bangladeshi, 26K, Black Caribbean, 0, Black African, 0. I hope I'm making sense. Well, this Office of National Statistics, well, that dates back to 2018, and nothing has changed since. So let me I'm trying to just, there's some stories of certain individuals, and people are talking about gentrification. This gentleman lives, that you can see in the image, basically lives has a restaurant in a part of London where he can barely survive. So the reason I'm sharing this, we'll talk extensively. Wirish, let me know if you can come on. I can see you commenting Wirish. It would be nice to have you come on after this so we can have a chat about this extensively. I actually sent you an email, Wirish. So look at this. Economic divisions are the overarching theme in British politics at the moment. Vote, okay, that talks about, all the, forget that, man. They were trying to remember the report by the government where they say the wake of Black Lives Matter. They basically always lie that there's no, discrimination. But I'm going somewhere. Let's forget about that. That's just a waffle about the government. They're liars. So, right. Historically, Black people have described difficulties in accessing credit from high street banks. That's true. High street banks, they're notorious for discrimination when Black folks, want to get on the property ladder and stuff like that. If you can hear me, please kindly smash the like button, all right? Accessing credit from the high street banks. They're also disproportionately represented in low-paid jobs. Many have had less time to accumulate assets, with the average Black Brit being 11 years younger than a white Brit. After Caribbeans, Black Africans only started coming to the UK in greater numbers from the 1990s, although they now represent a larger proportion of the population in England and Wales than those from the islands of the Caribbean. But there's still gaps that can't be explained. Yeah, right. After accounting for factors including backgrounds and jobs, for example, Black male graduates can expect to earn 17% less than their white counterparts. Did you hear that? Black male graduates can expect to earn 17% less than their white counterparts. Analysis from the Resolution Foundation shows. You see, you realize that they didn't even mention our Black sisters, because that can make you go blind. If the men, because women are already fighting against patriarchy, right? So if Black men are earning 17% less, just imagine what the Black women are earning. Now, how can you, I love this statement, how can you have an entire population of people who fail in exactly the same way? It's absolutely impossible. So that just tells you that there's systemic discrimination and, racism. All right. Now, the other image here talks about, let me see if I can zoom that again. It talks about wealth gaps that haven't closed between ethnicities over the past decade. So the black line, which is right at the top on the 300K, basically represents the white British median household wealth at 300K. White British median household wealth stands at about 300K, yeah? The pink line represents other white, and which is about 100K-ish. Indian is the gray line, which is right under the British one at the top, roughly 300K as well at the peak of it. Black Caribbean below 100K. Look at the Black African. It's the yellow line, which is pretty much flatlining. Maybe, I don't know, man, if I'm guessing here, maybe that's like, gosh, that's like what, like 20K or something? If going by that drawing, or perhaps even less. All right. So, I mean, these graph goes to about March 2018, but nothing, I can assure you, nothing has changed even at present. Okay. And given the fact that we also had a pandemic in 2020 and stuff, with everyone even struggling. So you can imagine that Black households have been beaten down even further, if that makes sense. So there you go. So British Black people are also more likely to be hindered due to factors outside their control, it says. These issues range from neighborhoods becoming unaffordable to being paid less for the same job. That's systemic racism and discrimination. If you're being paid less for the same job that you're doing with your white counterpart, that's definitely discrimination. And those factors can then in turn affect, listen to this statement, those factors can then in turn affect the fortunes of their children. Did you hear that? Of course, because if you're neck deep in poverty, it will affect your children. Inheritance in the now check this out. The inheritance a British person is likely to receive depends on their ethnicity. Data from the Resolution Foundation show that for white British family, the figure is £3,068, whereas for black Caribbeans, it's £778. For black Africans, Egbami, meanwhile, the average is £1 when it comes to inheritance. Sheesh! When it comes to passing on inheritance, this is what I'm telling you. They've got staggering, jaw-dropping data on us. I've been saying this for time. Some of you think anyway, we'll talk about that in a moment. Can you see? Read that bit again. It's one of my favorite parts of the article. That's actually where I fleshed out the title of this, live stream. The inheritance a British person is likely to receive depends on their ethnicity. Data from the Resolution Foundation shows that for white British families, the figure is £3,068, whereas for black Caribbeans, it's £778. For black Africans, meanwhile, the average is £1. £1. At the time of filming or streaming this, £1 is about 675 naira. Basically, household inheritance, 675 naira. Near issue. Man. So, yeah, and it goes on to talk about Grenfell Tower and stuff like that. And this woman who lives in the Grenfell Tower area also talks about, how, poverty is affecting. She talks about she grew up in that area. She's hoping that her daughter does well, and talks about how it's impossible to buy homes and poverty. So that's it. That's it. That's the article. Wyrish. Let me see if Wyrish is online. Wyrish, are you online before we crack on? Wyrish. Are you still there? What's the point in being the most educated group in Britain? It's not helping us. Thank you, Kende. This is what I'm telling you, man. You see, and we are the most religious people. This is what I'm saying to you. We are the most religious people. Paying your tithes, your offerings, and the partying 24/7. Don't get it twisted, man. These there are so many options available out here that we Africans can use to generate wealth and have family legacy as well. Olu Remy, let me read that again. Stop spending all your money with people who don't look like you. Wealth cannot be accumulated if monies don't circulate in black communities. Thank you, Sabrina. I'm telling you, man. When once again, big shout out to the gentleman that sent me this Coyote. Thank you, brother. It confirms some of the things I already, know. But when you see the stats, when you see the data, Jahari said, take your skills and develop Africa. It is a must now. This is what I'm banging on about. This is the system that black folks are laboriously defending, you got to be barking mad. This is the system that you are laboriously defending. They will laugh at you. If me as a black male, if I'm earning 17% less than my white counterpart, do you not understand that the system is designed to keep you down? Irish, let me put a link. I need you to come online. Come and talk to me, sister. Let's talk, man. Irish, click on the link and come and have a brief chat. Just a brief chat. Let's talk. The link is there. Please click on it. Let's talk, please. Somebody said, also stop the act of jealousy and envying your fellow. It's not a Nigerian thing, man. It's a black African thing. I've put the link on there, Irish. Click on it. Let's have a chat, my sister. This is what I'm saying, man. You see, what these tells you, if you don't understand, it tells you that a bunch of black folks are trapped in poverty. Of course, let me be clear. It's a system that's designed. There's a lot of discrimination whereby if you're paid less than your counterparts and all that, it's intentional. It's intentional, to make sure that, you don't have enough to leave off, and all the things like going through getting loans and mortgages and all that. Black folks are struggling. Hold on. What's up, Irish?
Hey. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, loud and clear. What do you think?
I'm not surprised. I mean, this is what we talked about last time, correct? Inheriting poverty generationally.
Yes.
So, yeah, I saw this article actually yesterday and I read it and I thought, this might be something for Phrankleen. But actually, a similar article just came out in the States from NPR. It says that Black millennials are completely behind when it comes to wealth compared to white millennials. White millennials are going to inherit $88,000, while Black millennials will inherit $5,000.
Wow.
Yes. And
so
the
basically,
reason
it becomes impossible to close that gap.
Yeah, and it's shocking because Black Americans or Black people in the States have made huge strides politically, but the wealth gap is still there. White millennials are inheriting stocks and homes that their parents owned that have appreciated in value. Black millennials don't have that. And then when you throw in Africans whose parents just showed up the other day, the gap is staggering, which is what we said last time, which is the gap is there and we're not closing it.
Right. So let's sort of unpack this, right? You tell me what you think. So it's nice to catch you online. I know it's quite impromptu, but thank you for showing up.
No problem.
So what do you think about from the point of view of the systemic, discrimination and racism? That's affecting the earning capabilities of, Black family, like that article said, and the data and stuff. What do you think?
I mean, systemic racism is definitely playing a big part. If your family has been part of a system that has kept them from financially advancing, yes, you're going to feel it. There was a reason there was an entire civil rights movement in the States. Black home ownership, redlining, banks not loaning money to African American families is a real thing. White flight is a real thing. So in the States, white flight is when African Americans or Black people would buy in a white neighborhood. White people would start moving, or white people would get together to buy a home to keep Black prospective families from purchasing in their neighborhood because their argument was the value would go down. Or realtors will purposely avoid showing Black families homes in certain neighborhoods and only keep them in specific neighborhoods. So that's redlining. There's been a lot of lawsuits about that. But again, capital is important. When you don't have the capital or the money to give you the cushion that you need so that you can advance and pass things down to your children. That's a huge thing. And student loans are a huge thing for us Africans and Black Americans. They're killing a majority of us. If you owe $60 to $100,000 plus interest in your 20s, and then you want to go buy a house, what are you going to do? How are you going to be able to live? And let's say you owe $60,000 and you get a job that only pays you $30,000. You're in debt. How are you ever
Forever.
going to get out of
For
it?
life.
Yeah. And then we have interest. So it's not that you owe 60,000, you owe 60,000 plus interest. So depending on how you pay, you may wind up paying back $80,000 for a degree that costs 60,000 to get.
Wow.
But you still want to buy a house, you want to have stocks, you want to have savings, but you're not going to be able to because you're going to be working just to eat, let alone paying your loans. Over here we stay in perpetual debt. You really have to be smart and strategic and have a plan, which is what we said last time. Don't just do things to do things. Have a plan. If you want to go to college, be realistic about the degree that you want to get. Look at the cost. Can you really make that money back? If you want to go get a degree that's going to cost you 60,000, but when you get a job it's going to be 30, don't get that degree. It's a waste
Hmm.
of time and a waste of money. Not to
Hmm.
mention the advanced degrees that we get as Africans. How many of us get masters and PhDs just to say we have them and don't pay attention to the cost?
Exactly.
So that's even more debt. So you went and got this master's degree to go earn $40,000. My question is, could you have earned that same money without that degree?
Goddamn right.
If you could, that means you wasted time, opportunity, and you went into debt. Now you have to try and make that money back. That's that gap that's killing us, or you get the ones who want to be the PhDs. And my thing is, a PhD, if you have to pay for a PhD, you've already lost. You're not supposed to pay for a PhD. You're supposed to get a scholarship or the school pays for it. Anybody who paid for their PhD, I'm sorry, you lost. And over here, it's almost $100,000 for a piece of paper for someone to call you a doctor of something. So, yeah, I wasn't shocked when I read the article about England. I was just like, oh, so then you guys are actually doing worse than us over here. Not that it's
Oh man.
better, but it just means, man, Black people, we got to have a plan. It's not working. It's not working.
So
We got to have a plan.
let me ask you, what we've
Mhm.
talked about we're aware of
Yeah,
the discrimination and how the system,
sure.
of course, is rigged to work against black folks, and of course, the
Yeah.
overall picture here is to
Hmm.
make sure. Because if you listen to that article, I'm glad you've read it. It's
Yeah.
basically to ensure, because look at what all that you've sort of unpacked now. If
Hmm.
I am trapped in poverty and I'm actually
Yes.
struggling just to stay afloat, and I'm neck deep in all these financial palaver, right? How can
Hmm.
it's just absolutely impossible to pass on wealth to my children or the next
Hmm.
generation. It becomes
Yeah, you can.
impossible. This is why there's the vicious cycle of our children, that they can barely. That's why they said that basically average inheritance for a UK Black African family is £1. It's staggering.
I I was shocked when I saw zero. I thought I had misread it. I was like, that can't be correct. But when I read that it was zero, I was upset about 5,000 over here, and I saw zero over there. I said, oh my God. I it's just not going to work. We have to have a different plan. We have to be honest with ourselves about money. A lot of us don't understand money, and we're not comfortable with money either. We don't know what to do with it,
And this is
even
what
if
I'm
we can
saying.
get it.
Thank you for talking about the degree bit, because I've been saying this for years, right? Black people always say, "Oh yeah, Nigerians are the most qualified, blah blah blah, in the states. Oh, we got the PhDs, the master's degree, but it's a mountain of debt, though. What's all these? We like these bars about. You hear some black folks. I've got 2 master's degree. Well, I've got
Hmm.
these. I've got my MBA in blah 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 blah. And then I'm looking
Yep.
at you. I'm thinking. Hmm, all that MBA though. So big deal. What are you doing with the MBA? MBA
Nothing.
I'm an Uber driver.
Mm. I think it's because when we come here, we don't understand the system that is here. We assume that what works for the Americans will work for us, but it won't. If you are an Uber driver and you get an MBA, I could have saved you all that money and said, don't do it. Because to get
Hmm.
an MBA, you have to own a business, make a profit, and have a history of making profits in order for companies to take your MBA seriously. An MBA is just a piece of paper. There is no company that's going to tell you, here's $15 million because you have an MBA. No business owner who's made money is about to do that. They're going to check and see what is your history of earning profits for other businesses. That's what I want over here. Your MBA is just an extra little thing. It's a marquee. What matters is your history of earning money, the companies that you worked at, your network. Who do you know? I don't really care about your MBA. If you have never made money, your MBA means nothing to me. And if you think these companies are too stupid and don't understand that you really don't know what you're doing and all you did was go to school and learn theory, they know it. And that's why they won't hire you. These people aren't stupid. They're in the business of making money, not running a charity. Just because you walk in with a PhD, all they'll do is look at your resume. What
Hmm.
research have you done? What groundbreaking research have you led? PhDs in the States are about bringing in income to universities. Unless that university believes your PhD is going to bring notoriety and money from donors, wealthy donors at the school who want to be associated with groundbreaking research and are going to donate buildings and labs, they don't want you. What's your PhD supposed to do to them? That means nothing to them. So you go out and get these MBAs and PhDs thinking that's what you need, but you don't understand the context behind it. You must generate profit. If there's no profit to be made, your paper means nothing to them.
Just
That's
imagine, just
why.
imagine, just imagine. You. I can hear myself in your.
Sorry,
Yeah.
let me turn
Just
it down a
imagine
bit.
you're already in a system whereby it's rigged against you. So why do we think that, oh, we have this mountain of MBAs and master's degree and all that stuff, tada, suddenly the glass ceiling will just disappear.
Because it's what we've been told by our parents. Our parents told us as long as you get a degree, you can get any job. And maybe that's how things worked back at home, but that's not how it works here. There's too many people with degrees over here for your letters and your papers to matter. Think of how many universities there are over here. How many people go to school here? You're not that special because you went to college. If anything, you did the bare minimum that was required by getting that degree. It's not an example or a special thing. You just did what everybody else does.
Absolutely. So how do you think black folks, let's talk about this, man. How can we begin to grow generational wealth? Because these these gaps are staggering. And as you say, man, it, I think it will get to a point where it becomes absolutely impossible to close those gaps.
Yes, I mentioned that the permanent underclass is a real thing. If you don't close that gap, your children will be permanently poor and be part of that generation. The more generations in your family that are poor, the harder it is to get out of poverty. That's why parents have to take it very seriously when it comes to what
Mm,
decisions are they making when it regards their children. First of all, look to your friends. What kind of friends do you have when you're young and you're going to school? Do your friends have the same goals as you do when it comes to your future? If they don't have the same goals as you need to start asking yourself some serious questions. If you're saying that you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, but your friends want to party, start looking yourself much more closely. Your network is how you advance when it comes to careers. The friends that you have in your field are the ones who help you get ahead. Never forget, it's who you know. It's who you know. You know, what you
mm,
know is great. Who you know is even better. That's why people complain about this person, I'm smarter than them, and they're my boss. Well, yeah, they know the right people. They know the right
mm,
people. Networking is very, very, very important. And on top of that, learn the system for the country that you're in. I know too many Africans who would come to university and didn't understand what they were doing in school and didn't know the rules and relied on a guidance counselor to tell them what to do. And whatever the
Ah,
guidance counselor told them to do, they just did it. You came 12,000 miles to go to school and you don't know anything about the school, the program, the system. You're relying on a foreigner to guide you for your education. That's
the
not how it
guardian,
works over here.
the guardian's counselor is clearly an extension of the establishment. They're not there to help you progress. They are there to siphon money out of you and to keep you down.
Absolutely. They work for the university. That's who cuts their check. So you wind up spending 5 to 6 years for something you could have done in 3 to 4. And then if you're planning to come here to go to school and then disappear and become illegal, please don't do it. Don't do that to yourself. We talked about that before. One of the biggest
Yeah.
problems for us is being illegal really hurts us so much. You know, you come
Yes.
over here saying you're going to go to school and then you disappear, you pay for that.
Talk about that. Talk about that. Talk about that. Go on. I like
Right.
that.
So you basically try to scam the system. You lied and said you wanted to come here and go to school, but you knew all along you didn't have the money to pay. You're supposed to pay out of pocket. You don't get any money from the government. You told them you could afford to pay for 4 years of school, but you knew you only had enough for like 6 months, if you're lucky. Or maybe you agreed to get a scholarship and you didn't understand the scholarship and then you came over here and the scholarship was a scam, but you were responsible for making all of that, you know, understanding the entire system, being clear on what you needed to do. Their job was to just give you the visa. That's it. And like you said a long time ago, all they ever promised was you pay us money, you get an education. Nobody said you were supposed to get a job. That's on you. And then, you come here and you fall off the grid and you disappear thinking you're going to be rich. But what happens is you're just a high school graduate with a degree from a foreign country. They don't even recognize your degree over here. They'll tell you go to school and get a GED from the States so companies will take you seriously. Even your high school degree from abroad doesn't matter over here. And then on top of
So
that, you get a job that pays you $5 or $6 an hour. How are you planning to become rich making $5 or $6 an hour? You can't get a license. You don't have proper documentation. You have to hide. You need housing. You're basically the most vulnerable person you can imagine. You don't have any legal protections. Even when you need help, you can't go ask for it because you're terrified of being caught. And then you have to work so hard plotting and scheming of how you can become a citizen. How many years does that take you? Let's say you decide you're going to get a fake social security over here. That's a federal crime. You'll go to prison for that. So now when you're trying to get fake papers, you have to hide from the FBI in this country just trying to get fake papers. And if they catch you with them, you're straight going back. And let's say
mm.
you decide you're going to marry to become a citizen. Oh my God. So you're going to pay somebody $20,000 that you're going to come out of pocket. You're going to rely on this person to basically not sell you out to immigration. Because remember, this person is a citizen and they're helping you commit a crime. You're at this person's mercy. They can change their
Can I
mind anytime they want.
can I tell you something, Wirus, before you carry on? Yeah. So in line with or in addition to what you're saying now, so the the deliberate, it's the systemic structure, right, which is aimed at us. So, for example, look at the where the UK immigration is at the minute. So back in the years, after people made applications, you could easily find your way. And so, of course, a lot of people spend years as well, like you said. But now, even after you've fought tooth and nail, appealed, your application gets rejected, blah, 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 then they give you 2.5 years. Check this out. And then the 2.5 years, you've got to then renew that, which is called limited leave to remain. Yeah. You've got to then renew that 4 times. So basically, if I get a 2.5 years limited leave to remain in the UK tonight or today, I've, in 2.5 years' time, I'll be due for another, application of, extension or renewal. So basically, I've got to, stay out of palaver with the police or crime and stuff like that, da 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 da, show proof of income and stuff, and pay extortionate amount of money to the UK Immigration Department to get the next 2.5 years. So let's say, for argument's sake, just like you were saying, yeah, I am a say 40-year-old man, I've got wife and kids or whatnot, and let's say I've got the same, my wife has got the same 2.5 years, the same thing with the children, right? Look at that black household. Yeah, you've got to pay these fees that you've got to pay for this extension alone runs into thousands of pounds. If you get what I'm saying, are you with me?
Yep.
Now, you pay the immigration department that, and then you get the next 2.5 years. So basically, we've got a 10-year journey before we can even think of getting to the point of becoming permanent residents. So they took the goalpost that used to be somewhere here back in the years. They just flung the goalpost into the far distance. I told someone the other day, it's a form of slavery. It's intentional. These folks, when they go to their drawing board, they look for ways to milk you, to keep you down, to break you, to make sure that they drain your finances. Just imagine what you could have done with the X amount of money, even if you start a small business, even if you invest back home and stuff like that. I know people, yeah, that they will
Yep.
struggle given the current climate. They will struggle even with jobs and struggling to, to save. Imagine father, mother, you got two children, right? Given the pandemic, wife might be out of work, husband might be out of work, you've got to pay your bills, blah, 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 you got to feed every week. The long and short is you find out that most black folks, they are actually struggling to stay afloat. So when it gets to the time of extension, I was talking to a man that watches my channel recently. I bumped into him, and then he said that, bro, I've had to borrow money from certain persons in my church to pay the immigration department, fees to extend our stay. So look at that now. And then he has to then start paying back, the loan. And then the wife is out of work. They are struggling. A family of four. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you're talking about all of these things that they are well orchestrated and designed entrapment to drain and siphon your finances and keep you down. Because when you look at these application fees, it's intentional. So by the time you're a 40-year-old, it's very easy for you in the West. My main point here is to be trapped in all of these. You're chasing that job, you're chasing that, you're trying to save and save and save. By the time you get to the end of the journey of 10-year immigration journey, you're already a 50-year-old. You are the
I
beginnings
agree.
of the part of your life.
I mean, it's not supposed to be easy. You asked to come to their country. It's not like they went seeking you
No,
out
no, no.
and said, "Can you
I
please
mean,
come
hey,
here?"
of course, I agree.
No, I'm I'm,
Carry
I'm
on.
totally with you. It costs money to be a citizen. It's a lot of money, and the costs just keep going up. They're gonna make money off of you. That's the name of the game. Think of how many
Mm-hmm.
people apply and all those fees put together. How much money are they making from people immigrating with different visas? And it's their right to do so. It's their
Yeah.
right to do so. It's their country. It's their right to do so. But people have to be honest with themselves. When we talk about having a better life, what is the definition of this better life that you're seeking? And can you honestly achieve it? Do you have the
Mm.
skills to achieve this better life that you feel you deserve? Keep in mind, these countries don't owe you anything. They don't owe you anything, not even the visa you want. You just
Mm.
think you should have this item and they give you an opportunity and you will sink or swim on your own. And don't get it confused. It's hard to make it in this country. This country will kick your butt every step of the way and you better be able to take it. I used to be told nothing in America is free and I never understood it, but I get it now. There is nothing free in America. Everything you get, you
Same,
will pay
same
for
here.
it.
Same here in the UK. Nothing.
Nothing. You will pay for everything. You might pay twice. You're going to pay on the front end or you're going to pay on the back end, but you will pay for it. It's not free. There's no money tree.
Absolutely.
There's nothing falling from the sky. There's no money paving the earth. You will work for everything that you feel you should have. And let me tell you, you will earn it. And whatever you send back home, there's a reason you're crying about it. You know what you did to earn that money. And nobody will feel
Ah,
bad for you over here.
good point.
And nobody will feel bad for you. And if you're expecting community when you come here, understand your own people see you as competition and are prepared to stab you in the back just so they can get ahead. So,
Mm.
mhm. Young people will not help you get a job. They will not help you find housing. They will not help you in your time of need. Even those people in the church, all they see you as is competition, and they are prepared to remove you so they can get ahead of you too. It's you by yourself. You
Man.
by yourself and nobody else. Not even your siblings, if they're here with you, are for you. It's you, and that's it.
Woo! I've been saying this.
And that's just the cold, honest truth about life abroad. So if you're looking for help, I'm sorry, you're not going to get it. If you're looking
Hmm.
for compassion, it will not be given. Life over here hardens you. You have to be hardened to survive. Otherwise, you don't make it, and nobody cares if you don't make it. They'll just talk about you and keep moving forward. That's why I say be for yourself first and foremost, no matter what. When you fall, nobody will pick you up. They'll step over you and keep going. They might
Mm-hmm.
be the ones who tripped you. You never know.
Ah, ah, right there, bullseye. Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for friends, please let that go. Get the information that you need and look for the information from the right people. Start going to your pastor, your friends. Just because your friend is a nurse and she tells you to become a nurse doesn't mean you should become a nurse. There are other professions that you can join. You are responsible for yourself. Get the information. The internet exists. Seek it out. Talk to people in your profession. Stop being afraid. Step outside of your comfort zone and be honest with yourself. Stop isolating yourself. And honestly, people just need to be practical. Stop leading with your emotions. Be logical. Nobody is scheming, plotting. There's no juju being cast upon you. When you get feedback at work, take it seriously. I just know too many people who, and I'm not trying to hit nursing. I'm really not trying to hit nursing. I just
No,
know
no,
so many
hey, speak
people
your truth, please. Don't worry about it, man. Speak
I
your
just
truth.
know too many people who think nursing is the end all of end all for Africans. Like and I'm not going to take it from you from being proud of being a nurse. Let me tell you something. When you get that LPN, all it means is that you have a certificate.
Yeah.
When you become an RN, you have a certificate. You don't have a bachelor's degree. You're not on the same level as someone with a 4-year degree. The LPNs and the RNs are just jobs that used to be for working class Americans who needed to make some extra money. That's why it wasn't that hard for the rest of us to get in. Any job that a majority of people can do that doesn't have a lot of barriers should be a warning sign like, yeah. And then think of how many hours you work. If you have to work 60 to 80 hours to live, recalibrate. I know so many Ghanaians who work as CNAs. They have 3 jobs. They don't even go home. Do you know what they do, Franklin? They sleep in the parking lot in their car before they go to their next job. You won't even see them at home. I knew a
Wow.
man who had 3 jobs and was going to school to get a master's degree. I thought he was crazy. He used to sleep in the parking lot of his job at night because he had to get up in the morning to go deliver something for his other job. The police used to come and knock on his window and tell him, "Sir, you can't sleep here." But he couldn't go home. So he would just pull over and sleep between his 3 jobs and school. That was his life. And I know many other Ghanaians who live the same life, working 80 hours, sleeping in parking lots. That means you don't go home. Can you imagine working 60 to 80 hours
It's
just so
crazy.
you can own a house? That's insane. And they're not alone. Nigerians, Kenyans, we're all in the same boat. So many of them have 2 to 3 jobs just so they can have that big lifestyle, go home and splash money. But I know what they have to do to get that money. And that's that wealth disparity you're talking about. If you
Mm-hmm.
have to work 3 jobs to make it, you're already behind.
Hmm.
You're already behind. 3 jobs just to be on par with people who were born and raised here. If you're doing 60 to 80 hours, and if you have to do 60 to 80 hours just to make $80,000 a year, reconsider the decisions that you're making and how you're defining
And can I
success.
also add very quickly to that bit? There is also these deeply rooted, I would say, misconception. These sort of we've managed to misinform ourselves. That this whole idea of because we're black folks, we see ourselves. Oh, we are rugged. We are. you know, it's a medal of honor, right? That, oh, you got 3 jobs, or black people can work hard, we can do 3 jobs. Fam, this is amplification of poverty. That's the way I've seen it for years. You know, when black people when we do all this self-aggrandizement, we sit in the room and then we always bang on about, oh yeah, you know, and this I work 4 jobs and 19 jobs in 24 hours. And then our lives are riddled with these health problems. We're broken, we're shattered at the end of our lives. And like you say, a lot of these people, there is nothing to show for it. Some, of course, you know, there are some, let's be clear, that might, you know, they do something, they might build homes back home and have a couple of things, maybe they might buy property here and there. But like you say, the price that was paid, do you get what I'm saying?
I agree. The price that's paid, 3 jobs, and you have children at home that you don't see, a husband or a wife that you can't even see because your whole life is work, and a family back in Africa that you're also providing for. That's your
Mm,
life, just working. That's where you talk about Africans who die on the job because they don't even go home. They don't see their families. They don't see their children. They don't see their spouses. And anytime they hear from home, it's for money. Then you have these big expensive homes that you didn't consider the cost of living. Like you bought a house, but you didn't think about the property taxes, you didn't think about the insurance, you didn't think about the cost of fixing your house. Let's say you bought a house for $300,000 because you have to have a big house. You know, Africans like big homes. We don't live in living small, small, even though you didn't
mm,
really look at can you afford that house. So you've got this big house so people can say, hey, wow, she lives in a big house. But that house has a roof that's going to cost $10,000 for you to fix. And you're going to pay that $10,000. Or you're going to need to fix the plumbing for $20,000 or the water heater for $10,000. Let's say
mm.
something goes wrong at the house. Who's financially responsible for that? You. Do you have $10,000? Do you have $20,000 set aside to pay? Don't forget your mortgage is due. Don't forget the interest rate on that mortgage. Is it fixed? Or did you get those, funny, loans with crazy interest rates so you could move into that house because you have 3 jobs? Hmm? So each year, each month, your numbers go up or down. So you don't have a guaranteed amount. This month, 2,000, next month, 3,000. That's a huge sticker price. And then your insurance, your property taxes. But you've decided you're also going to buy a $30,000 or $40,000 car with a high interest rate that you're going to spend 6 years paying off. So $40,000 in 6 years, you might wind up paying $50,000 to $60,000 for that car. By the time you finish paying it off, that car is worth maybe $15,000. But the bank just made an
Yeah.
extra 10 or 20,000 off of you. That's where that wealth gap is coming in. Your money is being splashed on ridiculous things. You didn't need to waste money. You could have bought a small house that you could afford. That was a
Mm-hmm,
reasonable cost, even though people
mm-hmm,
would have talked about you not living in a mansion. You could have bought a
mm-hmm.
nice used car, cash, 12,000,
Who
and
cares?
all that
Who
money.
cares though?
Yeah,
Who cares if they talk?
yes, all that money you would have paid in interest would have been in your bank, saving and accruing. You could have learned about stocks. You could have learned about money market accounts. You could have been saving money that you could pass down to your children, but instead you're too caught up with, showing off for your neighbor. That neighbor bought a house, you need to buy a house next door. I know so many people who've bought foreclosed homes over here, huge houses. And they
Mm,
brag, oh, I bought a mansion, but they can't afford to fix the house up. So you went
yeah.
and bought a house that's foreclosed, but you can't fix it up. What does that tell me? You don't have the money for that house. Why would you buy a house that you can't afford to maintain?
Hmm.
You could never afford it in the first place. That's the gag. Or why do you have a house and no furniture inside of it? Why can't you afford to furnish your house? You can't afford that house. Why do you have a car you can't afford to put gas in? That's a
Hmm.
real thing. People have cars and they can't afford to put gas in the car. But if you saw what they're presenting, you think this person's rich. We need to be honest with ourselves about how we define rich. Just like you saw in that article, Africans in England, they're rich, aren't they? Didn't you talk about those parties that they throw and those Ashua bees that they wear? But you're telling me it's $0? So where's that money?
Exactly. This is that. Thank you. That's the first thing that ran through my mind. Like to leave in all that flamboyance, right? And there is nothing to pass on. It's staggering.
Imagine the bitterness your children will feel. You had those big houses that they're not going to inherit, those big expensive parties that you can't pass down. And then when you pass away, how will they pay for the funeral?
Man.
Where would the money come from? Debt? So
Go fund me.
GoFundMe, so the big parties, the big houses, the big cars, going back home for the big trips, but $0. Meanwhile, like you said, Asian people in England are doing very well.
Oh yeah,
It's
you
gonna
can see
come,
the graph.
yeah, it's gonna come to a point where honestly, Africans in England are gonna be in perpetual poverty. And it's going to be very hard to get out. And it's not going to be a different story here in the States. So the party you're enjoying today, your children will not get to participate. We need to be more practical about the future. We don't really think about the future. We think about the here and now. And that's obviously being displayed in the graph that you just showed. Like I said, I was very shocked when I saw $0. I just said to myself, what is happening over there? Why is it $0? As hard as Africans are working in England, $0. That's insane. But again,
Hold on one second. I want you to look at this. This person said, don't rely too much on that article. It's more propaganda than truth. The agenda is for people of African descent to look bad, although we are doing a good job of that ourselves. That's a lie, brother. That's a lie. Yes, you know what? In part, I'll give you some credit to say, okay, fine. The media can twist stuff, but look, man, we have to be careful about living in denial, bro. And I'm sure Wirish would agree with me. I've always said this. Now, there is a prevalent problem with black folks. You see, if I have, say, whatever it is I'm doing, let's say I'm into IT, I've managed to maybe, let's say, in my own little corner, right? I've managed to do well for myself. Okay. I have a bit in the bank and I've got managed to move to maybe outside of London to somewhere. I've bought a big home for my family. I've got a bit of savings. I've managed to be sensible with my own decisions. And let's just say I kind of enjoy a degree of comfortability. Black folks like that. They tend to get cocky. They tend to get, not you, my brother, that posted this. I'm not aiming at you now, but black folks like that, they tend to walk around with the brain of a fish because they are the gatekeepers that I talk about. They are far up their own backsides and they think their little accumulation should be a general representation for the entire black community, which is in fact a lie. Because if you're drawing this graph, just like what we can see from this article and stuff, it's like a drop in the ocean. This is why I always talk about zoom out and look at the bigger picture, right? We're talking about the wealth gap. At most, maybe you have some little £150,000 or whatever saved or whatever. Yeah? Whatever that you think you have, you've got some equity on a couple of properties you've bought. If we put you alone on that chart, you lack the ability to represent the entire number of black folks that exist that are neck deep in poverty, that have nothing to show in this community. So what's the point of what you think you might have? And this is the thing. And then you find this element of selfishness that these black folks get dismissive and you start, we can't compete, man. Are you blind? This system is there is the part. This is what I want Irish to get into. There is discrimination, of course. It's designed intentionally to keep us down, to make sure that we don't rise above them and things like that. But what Irish has talked about, how people do 3 jobs, 2 jobs, 3 jobs and more to stay afloat, which is not a good way to live. But let's now assume, for the purposes of this segment, that you did whatever you could to accumulate that money. Can we now talk about Wirish? Why is it that we then most of our people then turn around and splash that money and force it down the drain on materialism, on unnecessary expenditure that They don't have these generational wealth to actually pass on. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, because we don't know what to do with money. If you didn't grow up with money and you get it in your hands, you don't know what to do with it. Nobody taught you what to do with it. Think about where many immigrants come from, at least from the continent. Many of them will tell you they grew up being hungry. Is that true or is that not true? A lot of them who come over grew up being hungry. They grew up not having school fees. They really grew up in poverty, no shoes, nothing. And now you come here and you're making 60, 70, 80, $90,000. Who taught you what you should do with that kind of money? Nobody.
Mm,
Nobody showed you what to do with that money, so you don't know what to do with it either. So you look amongst your friends and you see what they're doing and you do the same. We simply imitate what other people are doing. That's all. That's the
mm,
community that we have. If we had been brought up in a manner where we were taught how to manage money, save
mm-hmm.
money, pass on money, we would do that. Other communities do the same thing. The Jewish community teaches their children how to save money and pass it on. The same thing for some Asian communities. They teach their children how to save money and pass it on. That is not something that we practice in our community. It's a learned behavior. We only do with money what we have been taught. If you look around and all your peers are throwing big parties and living rich, and when they see you living modestly, they make fun of you and call you poor and talk trash about you, what's the image? What's the example that we're getting here? Think of your parents. How many, I'll speak for my generation, how many of us, when we graduated, our parents told us you should buy a better car now because you're a graduate? You should buy a
Mm-hmm.
house now that you have a new job. There was never a conversation about saving, investing, wealth building. It's just you now have done this, so you should purchase the following item so people can know you're successful.
And one of the major, in line with that, talking of the parents, a lot of them are even the fundamental reasons why a lot of their children who are now adults remain neck deep in poverty. Why? Sentiments, toxic culture. Imagine they haven't done well for themselves. They fail to plan for their retirements, right? So they then see that, oh, like you said, oof, God forbid that they get to find out that you're earning 70,000 pounds or 60,000 pounds a year. You don't even have to earn that much. They are already on your neck asking for monthly handout. Now, some might say, "Oh yeah, you got to take care of your folks, blah 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 blah." But most people, in the name of taking care, they do that at their own detriment. They self-sabotage. I've seen persons, they might have been the only person that made it abroad to come here to the West, yeah? And then you have siblings back home, maybe two, three siblings, inclusive of their elderly parents. They are hanging desperately on that foreign exchange, on the dollars that you're churning out on a monthly basis, on the pound sterling, on the euros. And this is some of the reasons there is emotional abuse, emotional blackmail that you must, you know, put. How can, this is what we're saying. Imagine, even some of the black parents that are here in the West, right? The moment they start to get tired, arthritis kicks in, they're having problems with joints and their knees now. Diabetes has knocked them over, blood pressure and all the medications have kicked in, and then they start to blackmail you now to say, you should be giving them X amount of money. Now, some could argue that, oh, I've got to help my moms and or my dad with, and stuff, because of this, this, and this. But they will actually drain you. I've seen parents in this country, even though they're getting X amount of pension credits on a month, on a maybe weekly basis, they're still siphoning funds from their children, trying to use them to clear the credit card debts that's been hanging on their necks for years. So those children then are neck deep in the same vicious cycle in the name of, oh, I can't say no to mom and dad. The most they can do is grumble, hit their heads against the wall, and they get sucked in. These same parents will still make way. Guess what? The same parents that are broke, that are siphoning money from you. If Mr. X is getting married next weekend, they want to take the pound sterling, convert it to a bunch of $1. The same people would defend the toxic culture. They want to be seen on video with their headgears spraying money like they've got it. So isn't that madness?
Well, yeah, it's
Even
emotional.
some of the same children that are being forced into poverty will be at the front line of spraying money and splashing out and carrying the latest cars.
I
Crack on, go on.
mean, Africans practice emotional terrorism, honestly.
I
African
love that.
parents,
Emotional
yeah,
terrorism.
African parents practice emotional terrorism. If you don't do the following things, I will emotionally abuse you. And your siblings will also do the same thing to you. So you had better do ABCD so you can have peace of mind. You won't feel great about yourself, but we don't care.
Hmm.
You need to sacrifice yourself for us. Isn't the story, I sent you to school, so now you owe me? Oh, I raised you, I put a roof over your head, so now you owe me. It's a debt that never has a clear ending date. You're going to
Hmm.
pay for the rest of your life, and then you're just going to repeat it with your children. So nobody gets to move ahead. We all just stay stuck. But the amount of money available becomes less and less. Honestly, the fact that Africans have been able to immigrate should have been a tool that we were able to utilize to our benefit, but instead it's being squandered by the black tax. We have a small window of opportunity that is quickly closing. Brexit should be a great indicator of how Europe is headed. Nationalism is on the rise, and they're
Yeah.
kicking immigrants out. They're closing
Hmm.
their doors in Europe. As we speak right now, Syrian immigrants are being kicked out of Europe as we speak. They don't want them there. And, the Brits had Windrush. So Brexit is already happening. America just went through Trump. Nationalism is on the rise, and immigrants coming over, they're not too crazy about that anymore. They're slowly closing their doors. At least they want skilled immigrants. So the days of lying about how you're going to get here, they're on to you. The world is too small. This window is very, very small and we're squandering it. So, for those back home, I hope they've enjoyed what they've been able to bleed from those in the diaspora, because in 30 years, it won't be there anymore.
Hmm.
They'll have to
Hmm.
figure it out. They'll just start from zero again. If all that money was sent home and nothing useful was built, they stay stuck where they're at. Yeah, you built that big house, but your children can't eat it. So, in 30 years, good luck, honestly, is what it's going to come down to. For those in the diaspora, their children most likely won't go back, because think about it. Why would your children go back to poverty? They'll basically look and see you spent so much money home, and the end result was the family is still in poverty. So I'll just stay here. Yeah, I'll struggle here, but it's better for me to struggle here than struggle back home. Honestly, it seems like we're not operating with a plan in mind. We're just kind of doing random things here and there and there and there. But going back to what that guy says, we tend to believe that I'm doing great, so all of us must be doing great, but we're not honest with ourselves about what great is. And like that article proves, our definition of great is out of context. Just because you're making $100,000, just because you have a house, doesn't mean your children will. It doesn't mean that
Hmm.
your children will also make $100,000 like you. It doesn't mean they will be able to buy a house like you. It just means you
Hmm.
are.
Hmm.
What that article is talking about is success is how well your children do after you. That's how they're measuring success. They're not talking about you, they're talking about your children. That's the
Yeah.
definition of success that they're looking at. So, you reporting that I'm doing great doesn't mean that that's actually the truth. That article is saying, okay, let's see how your children do so we can see if you're really doing great. If your children are in poverty, you didn't do great. The money was lost.
Hmm.
You didn't succeed. Success in the West is generational wealth, inheritance. You talked about this before. In England, it was all about what legacy do you leave behind, was the definition of greatness. There's a reason millionaires build universities and schools and hospitals and write their name on it. It's legacy. They want to be known as a successful family, and here's our legacy to prove it. If the money is lost by the next generation, the legacy is gone and they're considered failures.
Hmm.
So believing that you did great means that that article is incorrect. You've misunderstood the measurement that they're using. They're looking to the next generation. Inheritance is how they're defining greatness. That's where they put a number on inheritance. How much money are you passing on is what they're saying. If you're passing on nothing, then you're not successful because you're in the West, you're in Europe, you're in America. Success here is measured by inheritance. That's why we care about millionaires and what they pass down to their children, because their kids are going to stay rich too and they're going to pass it on and pass it on. If the money
There
gets
you
lost, you're
go.
poor. You're poor. So the money's done. Your kids are now like everybody else. So from what I'm seeing, it seems that other immigrant groups have surpassed us, and their children, well, they'll probably own the companies that we work at. So we didn't succeed based on what I'm seeing. We had an opportunity to start at an equal playground, equal playing level, and we didn't do what the others were doing, and we failed and we fell behind, and our children will pay for it.
Man,
That's what I'm reading. So
man.
self-correct if you can, but your children will pay for your mistakes. That's the legacy that they're talking about in those articles. You'll be dead, but your children will pay for it. So if you want to talk about legacy and inheritance, look at your children. You want your kids to, I don't even know if we do think about our children when we're talking about wealth. Perhaps that's the problem. Maybe Africans aren't thinking about their children when they're thinking
Most
about success.
let's call it spade a spade. Most Africans don't. We don't. This is what one of the things I've been banging on about before before I even got to know you, and you came on my platform. I've said this in my previous video. Most Africans don't. One of the fundamental problems is being neck deep in religiosity before they go into a conversation, before you go 5 minutes deep into finances. If you're sitting down with the average black person, particularly those religious nut jobs, Jesus is going to make its way into the conversation in 3, 2, 1, 0. People that don't like logical reasoning. You tell an average black parent about getting life insurance. If they're a child or you're a grown adult now, you have said, Dad, get life insurance and this and this and this. They have a stereotypically generated perception of you that, oh, you are the child with a sinister intention. Oh, you want them dead. Oh, I see you. You're plotting, right? Oh, you want to get rid of me so you can. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, for example, I'm Nigerian by roots. There is one of the toxic things in our community that drives me up the wall is you have elderly people who are financially reckless, who are neck deep in judgmental poverty. They will have the audacity to sit down. Their knees are tired now. Their hips have given way. They got blood pressure. They are on weekly medication. They have the audacity to say, I don't want you to bury me in England. When I die, I want you to ship me back home, to go bury me in my town. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And they have nothing, zilch in their savings, right?
Well,
They have no
well,
assets. They want the best parties. They want you to spend X amount of money on them. They want you to give. I mean, it's ridiculous. They don't even think. I know people. I can even say my own extended family tree. People that they have, they don't even have the basic understanding of, say, talk about assets. Have something that you can pass on. They feel that if they die today, it's your obligation that you have to pick up that truckload of a financial pressure and give them these so-called befitting burial. What the hell is befitting burial? I'm just gonna get a spot and drop you in there. Bye, you're gone.
I mean, I'll just say this before I wrap up. Many
Yeah,
Africans
please.
have children for selfish reasons. Not all, but majority have children for selfish reasons. It's not because they want they don't see children as separate people that they should respect as individuals. You're just supposed to be an extension of your parents. So what you want doesn't matter. You're just an extension of
Mm.
me. You're just another part of me. You're not a separate person. And that plays a part in what you're talking about, where instead of thinking about your children's future, you're just thinking about yourself after you're gone. It still has to be about you after you're gone. Rather than thinking, let me make things easy for my children so they don't suffer when I pass, you don't care about that. It's very selfish. But that just shows the type of parent that you were all along. It was never about making things easy for your children. They were supposed to
Mm.
make things easy for you. That's how you viewed it. And that really is a big African mentality. Children are supposed to make things easy for their parents, but that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to make it easy for your children. Let's tell the truth. Some African parents resent their children if they think they're going to have a better life than them. So they will purposely make sure their children can never do better, can't live better than them, can't have a much more comfortable life than them. Because to them is, I didn't have that. Why should you? If I suffered,
Boom!
so should you.
I have been saying this, god damn it. Thank you. Man, you know what, man? I've got to calm myself down. I've been saying this. Those evil, nasty, toxic parents that they know that you're going to have a better life, they will do everything and anything to sabotage their children for selfish and vindictive reasons. Man, you know what, man? Hey, carry on. Woo!
Right. So, and then there are the parents, those are the same parents who are in competition with you. That's why they tell you to build them a house, buy them a car. They're competing with you because you're abroad and they believe you're doing better than them. So now they have to compete with you. So you make sure they're at the same level as you. How can you do better than them? That's impossible. They have to be at the same level as you, and you're going to financially provide that, even if it breaks you. They're in competition with you. And that's really what it comes down to. You're actually competing against your own parents. They don't want you to do better than them. They're not going to allow it. And if they have to sabotage you to make it happen, they will. That's why they won't even pass on information about finances to you because they don't want you to succeed. They're jealous, they're envious, they will sabotage you, they will break your self esteem so you can never think that you will go beyond them.
Mm.
Unfortunately, that's the truth. Your own parents might not even like you.
Ah, man, you know what, man? You set me on fire, and then we're about to bring the show to an end. Gosh, your own
It's,
parents might not even like you. And
and
some of them,
that's
just because they didn't achieve XYZ, like you rightly said, please just emphasize on that a little bit more, that they will get out of their way to sabotage. Some of us listening, some of us watching right now, people know this. They're not stupid, but they are too afraid, perhaps, to remove themselves or conceal their affairs from these so-called people. Look, man, it enrages me. Why? I've been on this platform for a period of time, and this is why I do this story time, and I read some of the most heart-shattering stories. That's why that you find your own mother. They can steal, they collude, they conspire. They know you're breaking your backside in the West with all of these things we've been talking about. But some of them, maybe your father didn't even build a house, and then you're just in your 30s. You have the balls of steel to try to buy a parcel of land, and you're trying to lay a foundation, and they think, hell no, this guy's going to do better than me. Build a home, the age of 35, whilst I'm alive. I'm in the evening part of my life. I've got nothing to show for approximately or 70 odd years or plus on the face of the earth. And then you're just going to build a house. You're just going to start that business. They will sabotage you. It's evil though.
it's evil, but I have watched African parents sabotage their children's businesses, and those children were shocked. But the truth is, their parents weren't willing to see them do better than them. The truth is, some parents just don't like their children. They only had them because society told them to have them. It was something on a checklist to cross off, nothing else. But I got to wrap up on that note.
Yeah. Before
But
you, let's wrap up on this note. I appreciate you,
sure.
man. You've done amazing. What do you think? What's your thoughts on diversification in terms of finances for black people to be able to build wealth and the changing of attitude? I know you've covered the ground, but what do you think about the diversification, at least for us, the fresh ones and with the fresh minds, that people can take one or two bullet points? Say that quickly, and then we'll drop the shutters on this.
Sure. Yeah. Save your money. Get a budget. Get on a budget and find out how much your cost of living is and how much money you're bringing in. Get on a budget and save money. Also, look to financial advice from people who have a long history of being successful, not look successful, but actually are successful. And get out there, go to YouTube, go to the internet. The internet has a lot of information. It's not a hidden secret that you can't access anymore. The internet is the great equalizer. There's a lot of financial channels on YouTube that you can go to and hear a lot of people give you advice on how to do money market accounts, how to invest, and how to save. Go out there and get the knowledge that you need and talk to the people who know what they're doing. Don't live in fear and stop paying the black tax. Stop sending money home. Only worry about you, yourself, and your immediate family, meaning your spouse and your children, and that's it. And like I said in the past, some people just have to get left behind. Unfortunately, as that article has proven, carrying other people is destroying us. We can't keep it up.
Thank you very much, Wirish. Man, it's a
Thank
bombshell,
you.
man. Look, man, I'm about to sign off now. So if you're watching me that I'm fired up, okay, sometimes it's always very nice when you bring other people on and some of the things you already know, but that's why no man is an epitome of knowledge. So there's something just beautiful about the approach that Wirish brings to this platform. So, I know my stuff, but she's a totally different individual with a different vibe. And even though we connect at that level, I love the way she unpacks it. And when something resonates with your thought process, it hits different, especially when you're hearing it from someone else. So the long and short of, me bringing these article on, and massive thanks to Wirish. I'm going to listen back to these particular live stream and see things that I can fragmentize and flesh out from this and re-upload and stuff in tiny snippets on Instagram and all the rest. Is we have to do better. It's nice to unpack and have these conversations and get fired up, but we must do better. It's not about religiosity. It's not about, oh, God would do this and this. Even just looking at the people that we're up against, they put structures in place, right? They don't want you to come to their countries and do more than them. That's why you have all the discrimination and all the stuff that they've put in place. But what I'm saying in a nutshell is we must do better. Think about your future. Think about the future of your children. Generational wealth is the way to alleviate and eliminate poverty. Not spending all of our monies and parties, spraying money, boozing, and just throwing everything down the drain, keeping up with the Joneses, flexing, trying to oppress other people. Let's just try to be a better person. Even if our parents, some of us, our parents maybe gave us a disservice in how they failed to teach us about finances and stuff, you can unlearn. You can relearn, you can learn, you can actually make efforts and decisions to do better so that we can make sure that our children that are growing up into adulthood don't slip and fall into that same, financial entrapment or poverty cycle, so to speak. Once again, massive thank you to Wirish. Like I said at the start, if you've just joined, Adron Holmes, marries well with this session. You can own a parcel of land in Nigeria for as little as 25,000 naira. You can pay monthly over 24 months or 12 months. If you're interested, send me an email to foodchannel1960@gmail.com and ask me to send you the application pack. You're not paying, Phrankleen. You're paying into the business account of the company. A lot of people have jumped on the offer and it's still ongoing. I'm a business development executive in partnership with them. Invest, take advantage of your dual nationality, invest in your life, in your future, in the future of your children, or perhaps your unborn children. If you want to read up on that article, I know some people were asking earlier when Wirish was talking, if you want to read on that article, look in the description of this video when I'm done and click on the link. The link is in there. You can read it, in your own time. So from me and Wirish, thank you very much. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. It's your boy Phrankleen. And I will most definitely catch you in the very next one.
Bye bye. Thanks for
Bye.
having me.